review.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Be the Media Huntington. My name is Jenny Lee. Tonight is Monday, October 22nd. Tonight I have with me Miss Dana.
Hi, guys.
Miss Lisa.
Hi.
And Mr. Eugene Cook is our special guest this evening. He is running for the Huntington Town Council race this year.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Just if you will indulge us for a moment, I made a huge mistake on last week's actual show, but this is actually going to intersect into one of the questions that we did have for you. I owe a huge apology to Jimmy McGoldrick, as well as my co-host Dana. We had gotten some information late and I didn't have enough time to completely vet it, and I got a part of the story wrong, but Jane's going to clear up, I think, the rest of that and how it actually went down tonight. But I wanted to issue a retraction on that part of the story and a huge apology to my co-host Dana, because we ended up really getting into it over the police component, which just never even happened. So Gene, how is your race so far this year?
It's like every race. It's agonizing, painful, brutal, and unfortunately, they say it's part of politics. I would really like to see it removed from politics.
Yeah, there's a lot of dirty politics out there, that's for sure. So you recently sent a letter to the editor. Could you explain why now and how that came to be, and give us a little background on that whole thing with Nick Chiappetta, the town attorney, as well as school board president?
Not send the letter to the editor. I sent it to the ethics board chairman, and so I want to make sure that's clear. What that is a letter asking the ethics board to check if there's any conflict of interest, in regards to any person, including you have to do it yourself in case you're voting on something that you think may be an issue for you. So what happened was, and nobody knows, this is the first time I'm saying it, because I know Dana was very interested in it. When Nick Chiappetta got, brought up for a town attorney and was also the school board president, I went to him as this was going down and I said, "Did you check with the ethics board?" And he said, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." And I took him for his word, and that was fine. A year later, when he was nominated as the deputy supervisor, I asked him the same question. He said, "No, everything's fine. There's no conflicts." And okay, fine. Recently, with Jim McGoldrick, there was a young high school student that was stealing some signs for pranks or whatever. It's not a big deal. But Jim found out what the story was and ended up following this girl, taking pictures of her car and the signs in the back, and then went to the principal of the school and told us the school principal, from what I'm told. Now, Jim would be able to tell you the rest, but there was a chain of command there. And what happened was it went to Nick Chiappetta. And when I questioned Nick a week later, he said everything was fine and there was no issues with it. And that sort of left me uncomfortable, because he should have even been involved. It's a political thing. The school board president, the town attorney, deputy town supervisor, it shouldn't have been him getting involved, but he said he had taken care of everything. Long story short, what ended up happening was he ended up saying a couple of things to me that just made me feel uncomfortable. And so I asked him directly, I said, "Nick, did you check with Stephen Leventhal in regards to any ethics issues in having all these positions?" And he stuttered, and then he said, "I spoke to him on the phone." That was the first, raising of the hair on the back of my neck. So I said, "Nick, I suggest you write the board, chairman a letter and find out what's going on." I then went home that night. I got into bed and I didn't sleep all night. It bothered me. It bothered me a lot. So the next day I called the ethics board, Stephen Leventhal, the chair, and I said, "This is what's going on." And he said, "Gene, please write the letter to me." So I asked the ethics board to take a look at it. And what they do is give an opinion. That's all they do, is give an opinion. But, I know Dana had an issue with me in regards to, why I did this. Well, that's the reason why. There was too many people that were coming to me asking me, whether it was ethical if he had all these positions. And to be honest with you, I didn't know. But I took the man at his word. And so because things bothered me with it, my feeling was it wasn't a political issue. It was to ask the ethics board what the real deal is, because we don't want to get into trouble and we want to be transparent. And that's what we should be doing, whether we're running for re-election or we're running for a town board seat. We should always be honest to the people.
So when he was nominated as the deputy appointed to Pat Delco's job, you guys didn't think to check ethics then? Or
Well, no, I did. I actually asked him, and he told me that he did and everything was fine. So I took the man for what he said. Now, it may be fine. I don't know. I haven't gotten the results back from the ethics board. But it was one of those things where when he then told me he had spoken to him on the phone, I felt that was not right. And that was only a couple of weeks ago when Jim McGoldrick followed this girl to school and, found out that she had been taking signs and how it went down the line.
And that was the driver of why this all started to begin with.
I just, it just doesn't sit well that it just came up now. He's been on there. He was nominated for, you guys had to select him for the town attorney. I'm sure he was appointed, but you had to approve it for the Pat Delco's job.
That's not true. That's a direct appointment from the supervisor. So
And you guys had no say in that?
I'm sorry?
You guys had no say in that?
No saying that at all.
So, it's
And
odd
I said,
at the time.
there's a lot going on here. Let's figure out what you're doing as everything. And he said, absolutely, there are no problems. When I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, before I talked to the ethics board chairman, I actually, said there was a bunch of issues that I thought were going on. And he said, no, he said he spoke to him on the phone and everything was okay. And so I said, okay, fair enough. I think you should ask for a written opinion. And that's what I asked for.
So when you asked Nick for a written opinion and he never got back to you? Or he just never?
I didn't feel comfortable that he was going to do that because I'd asked him twice before and he had told me yes. Again, not Nick's fault because we just said, did you go to the ethics board? Okay. And he said yes. When we were in the conversation, what he said to me was that he went to the school board attorneys and asked them. Unfortunately, that's two different levels of government. He should have always gone to the ethics board in the town, not to the school. And it wasn't the school board. The school didn't have an ethics board. It was the school attorneys that he went to ask for.
Doesn't he hire them?
Yes.
He hires who?
The school attorneys.
The school. What school attorneys? You mean the
Heights.
board trustees or?
Well, I mean,
Nick
that's
hires all by itself. I'm pretty sure there's a whole process. You can't have one person hire everybody.
yeah, they would all, but still, he's a vote. It's no different than,
Yeah, well, so it's a vote. So you can't say he hired.
So the difference is, Dana, that there's two levels of government there. And so, so that when you're going into these new positions, you should always ask the ethics board for an opinion, especially if you're carrying so many people. And that's all. There may be nothing to it.
Oh, shit.
you got
Sorry.
to. Yeah, she shuts off. Go ahead. You finish.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
It's crazy. God, I'm sorry, Gene. Go ahead.
No problem. No, what I said was that in the positions that he was appointed to, and we hired him as town attorney, it's my feeling he should go to the town's ethics board to ask for a review. And I was led to believe that he had. When I found out he had not, that's when it started bothering me in a big way.
Why does this keep freezing? I'm sorry. Keep talking. Go ahead. Keep going. I can hear you.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm
Are
sorry.
you satisfied on that question with the letter, the ethics, or?
I don't know what's going on with the internet tonight. But what was being questioned? Was it his school board position or his town board position? Because if it's his school board position, then he was right going to the school board because the town shouldn't have anything to do with it. But if it's his town board position, Nick is pretty smart. I don't understand why he would go to a school board to discuss a town. It just doesn't sound logical. So what was exactly in question? Was it the school board or was it the?
Yeah, the ethics board only gives us an opinion of whether they're right or wrong. That simple. So it's my feeling, because the town government is a higher government than the school government, that Nick should have gone to the ethics board, the town ethics board, when he got hired and said, is this okay? He did not. He went to the school board, actually not the ethics board, but to the school attorney. And so, and that's what he told me. So at that point, I said, that's an issue, because he got involved with these little signs that were sort of stupid, to be honest with you. And, you know, people steal signs, and that's part of the political game, or if you want to call it that. Not a big deal. We didn't go after the girl. But I didn't think it was right that Nick was in negotiating that.
Wasn't there a lot of Vision 2020 signs also?
I believe so. It was Andre's signs, Vision 2020, my sign.
That she was taking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was taking private property. That was the problem.
That's
Okay,
illegal.
so I'm going to move on to another harsh question. We're not going to ask you about any of your favorite recipes. But what I do want to know, a question that's been circulating a lot. They're saying basically that you're a liar, that you had said that you were, yes, you lied.
Over what?
I'm telling you
Come
that
on.
you were not going to run for, or you were not going to seek office for another term, that you were going to turn yourself out after the second term. And then when I look at some of the blogs and I see some of the comments, most of the commentary is that you lied, you promised you weren't going to run for another term. So now they want to give you that promise. They want to help you keep that promise. So that's one thing I see that comes up a lot. So I'd like to have that in the beginning if we can.
Yes. So early on, before I was elected to any government, I sat down with my children and my wife, and we discussed things. And I was a big fan of term limits. And I said, that's one thing I want to do, is put in term limits and be the first one to go out on term limits. So it was my belief that we should have 2 4-year terms like the president. Mark Mayoka and I tried it early on. Frank and I tried it towards the end. Frank's run as supervisor, and there was some other issues that were going on there, so it wasn't going to work. When Chad got elected, he said to me, listen, I believe it should be 3 4-year terms, and this is why. Because of the legislature and how everything works, it's the right way to do it, and if you go that way, I think everybody will go with you. And so I said, fair enough. So I was done. It was finished. My kids came to me and said, listen, we want you to run for the 3rd term. We want you to be the first guy that says it and goes out on terms. And that's it. This will be my last term as town council person, no matter what happens. Okay. But I'm proud that I put term limits in. As you know, the law starts the day it's imposed. So Mark Cuthbertson, who's been there for about 22 years, can go for now 3 more terms. Okay. So I'm going to be the first one that said it and get out in terms if I'm reelected. And I hope you ladies will help me.
Okay.
Thanks,
So-
Gene.
You're welcome.
Do appreciate that. Okay, we are going to take it to Facebook now. And we've got some questions that came up. I'm going to read you the question first so that you understand how it was asked, because we are full disclosure here. I asked earlier, if you have any questions you would like us to ask Eugene Cook tonight, please post them here. The very first question came from Ellie D'Amico. She said she wanted to know why the budget hearing wasn't held until after the election, and where the $6 to $6.5 million for the dog shelter went. Architect was hired many months ago to draw up the plans for the shelter, pet Councilman Cook.
So in regards to the shelter, the property was bought for an expansion of the sewage treatment plant. And that's what we paid for. In that process, there was land that was donated for a dog shelter. And that's what was hoping to happen. Unfortunately, when we got the plans back, it was about $6 million to spend on a dog shelter. That land has to be part of, hi Dana, that land has to be part of the, for use for dogs. So we're now looking at things to see if we want to bond the money to do that. I don't think that's what we should be doing, or rebuild the existing shelter that's there. $6 million for dogs, and we have about 20 to 30 dogs in the pound at any one time. So that I think that's a little bit exorbitant. And if the shelter isn't built, it'll become a dog park, strictly for dogs. And any animals, any pets, I should say. So,
Oh, good. I'll bring my chickens down.
yeah.
Take them for a walk.
The other one that Ellie had?
There was another question from Gregory Mack. He would like an update on the Huntington Village parking garage and parking issues. And he wants to know, I guess we should break this one down, but I'll read them all to you. He wants to know your position on the Dix Hills development on Jericho Turnpike and his plans if LIPA wins the Northport Power Plant tax grievance lawsuit.
Okay, so let me start with the LIPA one because that's the one I've been working on diligently. And there's some things still going on. There are people that want to settle. I don't think that's the right thing to do. We are in court and the judge is deciding on that now on the 2014 year case. And of course, if the judge rules in LIPA's favor, that's a big issue, but we will appeal that. And in the appeals, I believe we can get some good attorneys that will come in and show where the issues are with it. And there's some major issues that we're not seeing. So I'm thinking that before any issues come around, it's probably going to be out a while. The judge, in my feeling, on that case out completely because she was lied to, and certainly, you know, it was shown to her in the case. But we'll see. We're expecting her to make a decision in late December or early January.
Yeah, I'm keeping a close eye on that Facebook page, waiting for that to come in as well.
Issues in the town of Huntington right now.
Okay. He also wanted an update on the Huntington Village parking garage and the parking issues.
Okay, so the parking garage is still in talks like it's been since 1954. It was my feeling that what we should do is start buying additional properties. So we just bought the bank down in down south of, I'm sorry, north of 25A, and we should be closing that on that shortly. And that will be an additional, I forget what it is, 85 parking spaces, I think, something on there, and that will help. We're looking to buy something a little bit north of, south of 25A, and so we can put a parking garage or parking lot there. The parking garage, they're talking about $20 million, okay, and we'd have to bond that. The problem with that is that I know in construction, because I've been in construction, when we're done, it'll be 30, 35 million, okay? That's a huge hit. I have a friend of mine whose son and I had a long conversation and basically said he's working in California on automated cars. So it could be very shortly, in the 6 to 8 years, that we just pick up a car and go, sort of like the bicycles at the racks. And we can go back and forth the way we want to do that, which is very interesting. So we have to be very careful because if we start a garage now, it's not going to be built for at least 3 or 4 years. And then by that time, what happens 10 years down the line if there's a change in the way cars are used? So it's a very delicate and intense conversation that we're having. But right now, if we buy the properties and we make them into parking lots, the great thing about that is that we can then sell those properties later on and offset the taxes with it if we don't need to park it anymore.
Is
So
there a reason why it's all cut off to the public now? Like, we used to be able to park in the Chase Bank, and now we kind of own it, and it's all been chained off.
Because we don't own it yet. That's why.
Oh, so it's still their property. So there's still insurance liability?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that's why.
Okay, so while we're at it, I don't believe it would be 3 years because the veterans housing sat there for 10 years, but I have another question for you. How are we assuring that all of this housing that was sold to us as veterans housing is housing actual veterans?
Oh, it's under contract. It has to be. There's no fooling around with that at all. Absolutely, 100%. There is absolutely nothing that's going to happen other than veterans.
Okay, I missed a question for him. I just want to make sure I get them all on. Your position on the Dix Hills development on Jericho Turnpike.
So I guess he's talking about
Mall?
the Metavilla.
I think so, Mediavilla Mall, but.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. And that's dead. It's dead in the water.
Okay. And we got one more from Facebook, and then we're going to let the girls pick your brain for a little bit. Andrew Kaplan would like to know your position on Indian Hills benchmark, etc.
So benchmark, I'm a no. Indian Hills has a bunch of issues before they get anywhere. And so we'll see. It actually has nothing to do with the town board. It has to do with the planning and zoning. So, but benchmark's a no in my book.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Oh, the one thing that came up, and Lisa, Dana, maybe you guys can softball this one so that you can get it in. The stuff that was going on about the quid pro quo that Gene apparently is getting donations from the developer that used to be, it used to be that really colorful, oh gosh, what was
The
it?
old gas station
It used to
next
be a
to where George Washington
Right. And
traveled through.
yes. And when Susan Berlin was in office, he had already got all the approvals for the medical center. He wanted to turn it into a medical center. She didn't like the color. So when his project got denied, that's why he went out there and painted it that many funky colors, was because I actually watched that board meeting. She made a big deal about his color scheme, and that's why she wasn't voting yes.
Right, but according to a couple of Huntington voices out there, the only reason why Gene has those very large signs on the building, it's got to be a quid pro quo.
Right, you're gonna vote for the zoning, and that's why he gave you a donation apparently, and now his signs are hanging all over the building, and they're calling this quid pro quo because you're going to vote for the change on his building. And I know Dina was
where it's
pointing
going
out
around.
everybody
It's
does
got to
it.
be a quid pro quo. Has to be.
So that's the word of the week.
The word of the week.
I think I can make that real easy. You ladies came to my fundraiser at Ohika. And Dana, I want to thank you for that large contribution you gave me.
Don't put stuff out there like
Mine was only a little contribution. That's why I have a little sign on my lawn.
The reason I'm saying that is that I invited all of you ladies to come on my diet, correct?
Yes,
And-
and thank you for that. That was very kind of you.
And I have not, I get it. It's not a big deal. It's not that I expected anything from you, and I didn't call you and say, I invited you to my fundraiser, and you're bad mouthing me. That isn't the case. And so what happens with me is I have a treasurer, and I don't know the treasurer, and I don't talk to him. I actually have one of my campaign people talk to him. So what happens is I don't know who gives me money. Okay, certainly everybody gives you money, and you can't run a campaign without it. And but I know the guy, and I actually like the project. So it had nothing to do with a quid pro quo. And what happens is that at the end of the day, I think that's going to be a great corner. And so I called him up and I asked if I could put signs on, and he said, "My pleasure. Please put them on." And I don't know if he gave me any money or
he gave you money.
how much.
It's like $5 grand. I don't know. They posted it all over this.
I think it was 1,000.
A
think it was
1,500,
only
I think it
1,000.
was. Wasn't it? Was like the
Right.
maximum or something that he was able to give, but.
I think you're allowed to give 5,000. I don't think anybody gave me 5,000.
And they
No.
keep pointing out that you get all these construction donations, but
2,500.
2,000.
Okay. That's very nice.
Yeah.
I didn't get involved in that. I mean, I did get involved in that, but because I thought it was foolish. He was trying to make a point, but then he fell back, Mr. Dalton, in regards to putting up numbers of donations. And like you said, campaigns have to be run. I mean, let's be realistic. And they put your information up there and said that it was on that building, but Joan has the same thing up at Palacio's place. So then they said, oh, well, this is different because it's a developer. I said, no, it's not different. It's not because it's a developer. Palacio's a lawyer and he sits on the school board. And he just so happened to open another immigration center right down the block from her picture. So what is she trying to sell to say that she's all involved? I don't like politics like that. I think it's pointless. I mean, if you want to make a point that the building is not there, that's great. Make that point. But when you start nitpicking and you're not nitpicking properly, that's when I have a problem, because they focused on the donation of $2,500. And as I politely pointed out, Palacio has donated much more than that to Joan. So why is it okay for her to have the sign at Palacio's office and it's not okay for you to have it there? I don't care if you were running a circus. If we're going to talk about facts, stick with the facts and let's do that. So I had nothing to say in regards to that. I just let it out and I posted her information just like they posted yours. And that's when they started with the quid pro quo. It's not that. The fact of the matter is, campaigns are run on funding. And the fact of the matter is, like you just said, you have a treasurer. You don't oversee every single donation that comes in. So when they start thinking about that, I don't really get
I
it.
deliberately do not do any of that because I don't want anyone to say, oh, well, I donated this, you know, and you're not voting for my thing. I will not do that. Just like you didn't, Dana. There's a respect that you have to have for the people that are electing you. And I would never give up that trust.
Yeah, I think that what I'm coming to find is that this, you know, some of these sites that some of these Facebooks, some of them have good information, but they don't know how to run with the good information and just keep it at the information. They try to dig and point, and I can't tolerate that from anyone. I don't care what your side is, just give me the facts. So when you start comparing things and you're not honest, then that makes me question what exactly is your point, because anyone that has had a remotely successful campaign has had donations. So
Absolutely. You can't do it without it.
I mean, like, you can't have run commercials or the signs or whatever it is. I mean, you have to be realistic. So I didn't have much to say negative in that one at all. In fact, it was like, enough. Stick with the facts and we'll be okay. And that was that for that one.
I agree, Dana.
One of another chief complaint I see this year, people are going bonkers over the lawn signs. This one's yours. I like your round idea, by the way.
I
It's
love the
very
round
neat.
ones.
I like the round one. They really stand out. But they're going absolutely bonkers over these signs. I saw today, which I was very upset. The whole train station was littered with every single party is
Saw those too,
every single
everywhere.
one. But I saw that the town guys out there picking them up, and they could be doing so much other things. But this comes around every year.
Yeah.
It does. And the problem with that is that you have people that are very passionate about, you know, their candidates. And so they go out there, and I can tell you that I'm sure Joan isn't, you know, putting out signs. I'm not. Andre's not. Leary's not. And what happens is people just get crazy. And the closer we get to election day, the crazier it is. So don't expect, you know, and the town was notified that there's problems, and that's why they're out there, because it becomes too much of an issue. And the town does use the recycling center to bring these signs, and the candidates can come back so they can reuse those signs, but they should be putting them on private property, and have, you know, the property owners be aware of it, you know, that you have the permission to do it. But there's nothing you're going to do. It's going to get out there, and they're all over the place.
Now, when you first ran, I'm not going to mention any names here, but you'll remember this scenario. When you first ran, you had caught somebody stealing your lawn signs.
Yes.
And tell us what happened with that without mentioning names.
I chased him down, got him. He ended up throwing all the signs out on the road, but I actually videotaped it as I was driving down the road. And so he got arrested. He had to he actually spent, I think, a weekend in jail. Got his car confiscated. It wasn't his car, it was his girlfriend. So that cost him $5,000. And then I sued him in small claims court and won a $5,000 judgment from him.
Wow.
And we're actually friends today. He's nice.
And your last run, he worked on your campaign.
Yeah.
After all that.
No stealing.
I believe he was an African-American man also, but I won't say the names on that.
Oh, that's I mean,
But
yeah.
I'm segueing.
Right. So you might as well just say the name then.
I'm giving you a segue.
African American good, yeah. It's not that hard to figure out.
Gene, I was at the park the other day, and Mike and I saw someone steal your sign and walk all down Prime, and God knows where they went, but they were walking their dog. They didn't like your sign. They picked it up, put it under their arm, and they just kept walking. And we were just looking at them like, oh my God, it's blatant, crazy.
People are, and it's good to see that they're passionate. They want to get their person in, and maybe those people wanted that sign so they can put it on their front yard, and who knows. But
We need a little less crazy and more passion.
At the end of the day, past 8 years, every time I ran, I would have a whole crew going out the day after election day picking up the signs. And both Andre and I have already committed to doing that after this election, so we can take down all those signs. So hopefully it's all gone and they're, put away.
Good. I have a quick question for you. and hope that you could clear it up, because I heard a little bit of chatter about it. The enrichment center.
Yes.
I wanted to know why it closed, what happened, and what's going to happen in the future. Are there any
The
plans?
enrichment center is not closed. There were some people that left and what have you. It did, sort of have an idle on it, but it's going to be opening up. There's some issues with the building. We're doing some changes. That's Leah Jefferson, who runs the CDA, and she's working on a couple of projects. We're trying to move it to a better facility, so it's got a little bit more parking, a little bit easier, and I think it'll be fine.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you know that there are people that have gone to the enrichment center? I'm sorry, it's not even the enrichment center. That's the wrong name. It's the HORC center to this date. And they've gone there for services, and they have been told that there's no one there to help them. And then there was another time, no one answered the door. And then there was a time where there was a young man there, I don't know what his name is, and he was unable to give them any information. So I'm not sure how it's still functioning when we have families that come back down to the church and let us know that no one's there to help us, and we don't get the information that we need like we used to. And
Go ahead.
the building is in the center of everything where you can act. I understand that the parking is an issue, but I don't think that many people that are going to receive aid are coming there to, driving there. They're taking public transportation. So wherever the building is moving to, I hope that is being taken into consideration. But in the meantime, what are these people supposed to do? Because they're not getting the aid that they used to get.
They should go right down to town hall and go right to the CDA. And what I'll do is I will speak to Leah Jefferson tomorrow morning and see if she at the very least, she can put a sign on the door and saying, if you need services, please contact here with the telephone number or go down to town hall.
And do they have bus service that runs to the town hall, or?
Oh, yeah.
I don't, they do?
Yeah. There's a bus stop right in front of town hall.
Okay.
C6 zoning. C6 zoning is how we've ended with no restrictions on C6 zoning is how we've ended up with this monstrosity behind me right now.
And remind everybody where that is.
This is on New York Avenue in front of the $6,000 statues that we paid for a contractor in Colorado. Instead of keeping that money in our own community and having our schools compete for the art, we outsource to another state. But that's not what this, right now it's about the C6. I understand you guys just had a public hearing. It went on till the next day for the C6 zoning. It was tomorrow. I predicted it was a 5.5-hour town board meeting. And I know it was really just more of a listening session, but there's no restrictions on the FAR, which is the, help me out here, area square footage per unit. Basically,
Right.
Floor area ratio is what they call it, but it's the square footage. So because of that, we go by state standards, which is very, very low. So these all are basically tiny little shoeboxes, which is now going to increase the traffic issue in Huntington Station, as well as the density. This turns out to be 66 units per acre, and the typical is 14.5 units per acre. So if you can give us any thoughts on that, or what feeling you're getting with C6, or how you felt after that meeting.
So what happened from the very beginning was this was something that Supervisor Lupinacci had wanted to tackle over a year ago. And so he was working on it, and the first plan that came through, I thought were horrible. So I rewrote the C6 resolution, and I added 2 parking spaces per unit and that type of thing. That wasn't what was put forth.
Right.
But what I thought, and what happened was I had gotten the information just the day before, actually the night before that press conference. And I didn't have time to look at it in detail. I skimmed over, but I knew right away I didn't like it for a number of reasons. Probably the same reasons that you girls don't like it either. And so I went there and I said, I had a script that somebody had written for me. I'm not reading that. I want people to show up so we can hear them. The supervisor wants to get out there and get in front of this. Let's do it. But let's listen to everything. When I started getting letters in regards to it, my answer was the same, and I will tell you now. The way it was written, I'm a no vote for it. I thought it was horrible. And I think there's a way of changing it. Any of the civic meetings or the conversation I've had, it's all about Huntington Village. And I think we should make Huntington Village a historic district. Once we do that, we can set that up whatever way we want, and then we leave growth for other areas. And this way, we don't damage other areas that could have the potential growth, but we can limit certain things in the village. And that's what I'd really like to see happen. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but the supervisor and I did have a conversation about it, and he was very open to the idea. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know if you were aware of it, but we were the first one at 66 units per acre in Huntington Station. It was Save Huntington down in the village that really started making the noise when they wanted to redo classic galleries. We're the first in Huntington Station, and Huntington Station is exempt due to the hotel overlay.
Correct.
And it just seems like this area is now going to absorb everything, especially if we make the village a historic overlay.
Well, I don't know.
I agree with the historical.
I don't know if it's going to make it worse. I think what we want to do is bring in some new ideas to Huntington Station. We want to see Huntington Station grow like Huntington Village did. Huntington Station is awesome, okay? And it's got a bad rap. But the Supervisor Patron, years ago decided to work with Renaissance and see what he could come. And understand this, there was a real problem in Huntington Station at that time. And so it was a tough decision for him. And I was definitely against it, and I sort of came around to it. And what happens is that I don't like the idea of 66 units on a piece of property. But when you look at it, it may bring the growth in that we need. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Nothing from you guys right now. I want to jump into the sewers if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We voted, it's not even probably about 12 years ago that you were not on the board at the time. They
Right.
voted to expand the sewage treatment plant. And that was for our expansion needs in our town.
Right.
And we pretty much take intake from anyone, including Riverhead or anyone down at our sewage treatment plant. We're the only one in Suffolk County that does that. Everyone else has lists or restrictions, and we do it because it's for revenue. And I just find it to be counterproductive. There was a water report that basically just came out and said our water is bad. They're going to start looking into ways for Long Island, that we've killed our aquifers at this point. The rates of cancer are high because of that. Lisa's a breast cancer survivor. They're all interconnected, and we know that they are. But at what point do we say, listen, our sewage treatment plant is for our residents, especially if we're looking for growth, and yet we're taking sewage from absolutely anywhere without knowing what's even in it?
Well, what happens is that because of our sewer plant and its capacity of being able to, clean that sewage and do it very well, I think it's probably a benefit to all Long Islanders to take from other places and use the revenue for our area, and that's what we do. There may be some people that say, it's wrong to bring these things in, but to be honest with you, we don't know what's in any of the sewage. Okay, and what we do know is that there's problems because it is affecting our drinking water, and that's a huge issue. And so there's a lot of work going on with that, but it's something that's very, very important to be on top of. Nobody fixes their roof until it's leaking. Well, we should be fixing our water right now, and it's unfortunate that the county government has a law. Okay, put in many years ago. 1/4% of the sales tax goes to open space and clean water. Okay. Now take a look at all the businesses, okay, in all the town of Huntington, and 1/4% of the sales tax is collected just for that fund. Okay. It's in the county, and Steve Ballone has it in there, and it's been siphoning money out of there. Okay. There's $200 million in there. The last I checked, and that was over a year ago. But can you imagine how much you could do with that? Okay. So Steve Ballone now is, asking people to go out and do single family sewage treatment plants. Great idea. I love it. And I think we should do it if somebody's doing an expansion or new construction. If somebody's, doing a, 50% or more, they should automatically have to put that in there. It's an expense. It's about $20,000 expense. But we need to do something now. And if we don't, we're all going to pay the price, and our children are going to pay the price. We need to do it now.
Well, at the same time, every one of these apartments has a bathroom, a washing machine, and a dishwasher. So, we're aggravating a problem that they're only giving a very small percentage to fix. And
It's
understand.
unbelievable. And until we get some people in there that say enough is enough and
Yeah.
fight, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. I mean, you saw the news like I did yesterday in regards to they're now talking about taking water from New York City and upstate and piping it out here.
Right.
A couple $1 billion worth of, construction work. And for what? When we can upgrade our plants and really take care of things that we need to.
Now, we know that you don't have any authority over Northport Middle School, but are you aware of the situation that's happening with the plumes that are underneath them and the children that have been coming down with leukemia and the death rates over there? I know you have no authority, but I just want to know.
I don't have any authority and I don't have enough knowledge on it. I have heard of it. And, I have to say that there's a guy by the name of, it was named Bird Dog. What's his first name? Jeff Bartels.
Oh, Jeff Bartels, yeah.
He wants a health study in the area. He's right. We should get it. He's right. We need it. And we really have to start working on this because there are too many illnesses. We didn't have these illnesses when I was growing up. We didn't have these kind of illnesses.
And it's a plume that's running down, from what I understand, looking at some of the maps that I've seen from the Veterans Hospital over there.
Okay, so we don't know what was there. I don't know if that was a dump site at one time, or there's some other things going on there. But we need to do the studies, and we need to take care of our people, and that's the priority.
In the meantime, there's kids in the building. I know we're going to be covering some of this next week because it was just brought to our attention when their school board had a meeting this week. So I'm glad that you're aware of it. That makes me feel a little better.
But ladies, scream about it, because unless you do, nobody's going to be listening.
These are our kids and our educators.
Yeah. So we need to take care of it. It's a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got about 20 minutes left. Dana, Lisa, have at it.
Really quick, Jean, I know you don't like to brag about all the good things that you do when you've done. But the other day I was out and I saw something about a soccer program the other day. Can you just tell us about that really quick? Because I thought that was really cool.
So yeah, the community and the police were having some issues. And so the police came to me and one of the community leaders and said, we have problems and the police are always doing this to us and the police are doing that. And we need to do something about it. So I got together and we had a couple of meetings with the police back in maybe January. Could have been last December. But we sat down and said, let's start a soccer program. And it has been an amazing success. 250 kids playing police. You have now kids looking up to police officers and great police officers helping kids. I suggest all of you ladies go down there and just spend an afternoon down there. It is amazing. You see fantastic kids smiling and their parents are smiling. And that's what it's all about. So I'm very proud of that. And you're right. I don't brag. I'm not one of those people that has to Facebook everything. Of course, we're doing it now, but I don't know how to do it. So, it's great and I appreciate it. But yeah, it's a great thing. And the response has been huge. In fact, I'm supposed to in December sit down about having a spring camp and a summer camp for the same thing. And there's going to be an ice skating camp also. So we can bring,
nice.
And a volleyball camp also, I believe. So we're working on that now, and it's amazing. It's a great thing because the community needs to trust the police officers, and now they can go to the police officers. And if you see these kids, police officers, they're absolutely phenomenal. Really, it's fun to watch. You see respect, and isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it sure is. We need a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dana, what's up, baby? Let's go. Come on, Dana. Where are you?
I just have to be very mindful of what I say. I do not like how this whole thing took place today. I'll be very honest. But what I will say is, I don't know what community you were in. I do know that there are a number of African-American members within the community that say the complete opposite of your help or whatever you have done, and they don't see you, especially in the Depot or the Numbers area. I don't know. I don't live over there, but that's what I was told. And I do see your signs are inundated on Depot Road all the way down. So what exactly?
So you're talking about Depot Road, not Depot, right? Is that what you call it, Depot?
I don't, it's spelled D-E-P-O-T, so I call it Depot. I don't know what you guys call it, but that's what I call it.
Depot Road.
Okay, so
what happened to the T though?
you know,
I call it Home Depot Road, just so you know. I always do it on accident. Home Depot Road.
It's just silent.
Depot.
So Dana, about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I met a guy that owned a business that did the Israeli border security. He did with cameras, and he lived in Huntington. So we got to talking, and I asked him if he would donate cameras, and he donated some real sophisticated cameras, all up and down Depot Road or Depot Road. So the free. Didn't cost the residents anything. It's wired right up to Yaphank, so the police have it. He also donated 2 trailer-mounted cameras. So if we have a problem in a park or in a, for a parade or something, we can have trailers out, and they have been out at some at some parades I've noticed. Amazing equipment, free, no cost to the taxpayers, and that's great. Now I also put in a resolution a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, for new concrete sidewalks and curbs along Depot Road to the tune of about $300,000. So we are working there. And if people don't see me, that's okay. They can always call me, and they know I will call them back. As you know, I worked with Reverend Artist and Reverend Jennings and Reverend Washington and a number of other reverends in giving classes and seminars for people that wanted to buy houses. Okay, I've done that. I made a living off that. And so I had lawyers there, credit people there, bankers there, and real estate agents there to really get it so that people could enjoy that. We've had 4 seminars. So I'm always there and I'm always available. And, the biggest thing that I've done, Dana, and you know this, is, I reach out to people. Okay, so, if you have a problem, you can reach out to me and let me know. I will go out and talk to anybody anytime because it's my job. And that's what I feel. And I'll do that right up to the 31st of December if I'm not elected. And if I'm elected, do it for the next 4 years. So I'm very excited about it. And Dana, to be honest with you, I'm very proud of all the work that I've done. Maybe some people don't think I've done a good job, but I can tell you that in my heart, I know I've done a great job, and I'm very thrilled about that, to be honest with you. And my family, my kids say that to me, and that's a huge success, if you ask me, when your kids are telling you that.
In regards to the cameras that you put up, it's from my understanding that the ones that go directly to Yaphank, hope I'm pronouncing that one right, it goes directly to the police, but it doesn't help the people within the community. It's over policing. So, which,
I'm wondering about the monitoring myself. That's one thing that's really been lacking is the monitoring.
Okay, so and this just came up recently. Originally, when it came down, it was an option to let the public safety have it or the police have it or both. What happened was, because of some of the political issues that I wanted, I didn't feel it was the right thing for politicians to have the access to those cameras. Okay. And that really, I was the one that made the decision, said just give it to Yaphank. The problem is, I don't think it's working as well as it should. So we are now moving it, and so we will share it with Yaphank and our public safety. So the both of them will get it, and hopefully that happens within the next 2 months.
There's a couple of other things that we've gotten over here when we had our huge crime spree going on between 2006 to 2015, if memory serves me. We had gotten ShotSpotter. As well as the cameras were all being monitored. And then Dr. William Spencer had introduced the DNA program, which I'm pretty sure we haven't had any stolen goods that have been recovered under the DNA program. And yet we still have the signs all over our neighborhoods. We still have ShotSpotter. Every time I go underneath it, I lose service. So it makes me wonder, with the radio waves, what are we doing that we put these things in? And that was done under Legislator Cooper prior to William Spencer being elected. So are there any plans to start reversing some of the the aesthetics that have given Huntington Station such a bad name. I mean, we're pretty much advertising, we need DNA, we need ShotSpotter, because it's just such a visual thing. I know it was a contract, but that contract is expired. And, you know, all ShotSpotter really did was cost a lot of money and tell you that there was was bullets fired. And a lot of it was false data, especially with the fireworks.
Correct. So I don't believe ShotSpotter is being funded anymore. But those are the legislative questions. So when you get Doc Spencer on, you can ask him. But that being said, those were all new technologies that your elected officials wanted to see if we could get and work and see if it helped the problem. ShotSpotter did not work, and it doesn't work. It's not a great system at all. The DNA, I'm sorry.
I'm so bad with that. I'm sorry. If it's no longer being funded, can we get some advocacy to get the hardware out of here? Because it becomes a visual thing.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's the first time I'm hearing about it, but I'll check on it tomorrow and see what we can do. Not being funded, but I'm working with Doc Spencer on another project. So I will ask him tomorrow and see what we can find out.
Especially the DNA signs, because those are just blatant. I mean, that, but ShotSpotter really messes with the cell phone coverage here in this area.
Okay.
Dana, do we leave anything that we didn't leave on the mat? Do we have anything?
I didn't, what'd you say? What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
For me, what do you got?
I mean, I have, like I said, I have to be careful. I don't want to fall into any traps, so that I already see some that was put up. I asked the questions that were sent to me. You know, I speak basically whatever I say is factual. I don't get involved with the he say, she say, and I go right from what the community says. So if you feel that you're doing a fantastic job, then, you know, we'll see at the polls if the community feels the same way, and we'll go from there. But for me, I do have a problem with any politician that I don't see in a neighborhood, but I see your signs plastered everywhere when it's election time. And then when I speak to the people and they tell me something different, you know, I don't like that. And they do come to the show. They do talk to us.
Okay, so Dana, you know as well as I do, you and I have known each other for a long time. And you called me early on. There were some issues in neighborhood that you needed me to check out with street lighting and some IV needles, and took care of that and made sure there was more patrols there at night with our rangers. And we care
that wasn't for me.
No, I know it wasn't for you. You called up because there was somebody that had an issue with it, and we took care of it. The other thing is, you came to me a couple of years ago and said you want to be put on a board. And so right away, I put you on the best board out there to take care of things. The SBOOK committee is where you take all the money and put it where you think is best needed in the town. And unfortunately, you didn't show up all the time. In fact, in 2 years, you only showed up 3 times. So when you're talking about the committee,
that's not accurate. I will definitely.
Maybe it's not
completely involved with Pickle Park, and I went to each house and I spoke to each person, and I brought you back the information. When I sit in the room for 3 hours and hear someone talk about their knees and how they have to have surgery because they need an inhaler, and I don't want to do that. And it's not that I didn't show up. I got tired, and I told Joan the same thing. I told Joy the same thing. I'm not a geriatric person. I thought I was here to make some effective change. I can't sit here for 2 and 3 hours to hear about surgeries. And then what happened was I was replaced, just like I replaced Bazile Walters without notice. I was replaced with Steven Smooches without notice. But that was okay, because I was then replaced back on by Tracy Edwards. So it all worked out. But no, it's not that I didn't show up. I'm not going to sit there for hours upon hours talking about the same thing. And it's only 2 opinions that matter in there. So no, and I'm vocal. I don't just don't show up and just go with the whim. I was very clear when I left, and I spoke to everyone. I'm not here for that. That is not what I signed up for.
Okay, but what you were there was for the community, and you could have said, "Hey, I'm here for the community, guys. I don't want to talk about this. This is where we need the money." There was a lot of money to be moved in areas that you thought. I put you on that board so that you took care of it to make sure it was there. The first year when they came back to me, they said, Dana only showed up twice in 12 sessions. And I said, wait, that's not Dana.
I think it sounds like she's having a problem with one of the board members. You were guys successfully got the term limits put through. Is there any possibility you guys can look into, if you win and you get the majority, capping how many positions you can serve on a board as a member in this town? Because I know there's a lot of people that serve on multiple boards and are very ineffective. I mean, I have to agree with what Dana's saying to a point here, where when you have somebody who's coming in and only talking about their personal issues, you're not getting the business done and it becomes a waste of time. These are people who sit on the line. I know who she's talking about now that she said it. And this person serves on other boards.
So there's no doubt that we can do that. The problem we have is that there's a lot of open positions that people do not want to fill. And so like Dana, you get tired of going in there, but Dana, I know, is an aggressive person, and she could go, hey, guys, this is it, and pound on it and get it done. I did that coming in on the town board, okay? And I took a lot of heat. You remember the early days? You were with me, okay? All of you were with me. And so it was it was very tough. And there was nights that I was extremely worried. And so, when you do that, if you're fighting for the right cause, there's no reason not to. And yes, I get it, Dana, that, there's some, long-winded conversations, because there's long-winded conversations now. But what happens is that you have to say, enough is enough, guys. We're here for, a reason. Let's do it and get done. And that I thought was very important. And to be honest with you, I put you there for that. And I was really, you would take it.
It never worked. And I stayed. Like I said, I mean, my work speaks for itself. When they did that whole pickle park, I actually went to the people's houses. I talked to the people in the thing. I took the position seriously. When Tariq came and he did his plan for, I forgot what he was asking for. I was there. There were a number of things I was there for. But if you have one person dominating the conversation, you have one person, even when you vote one way as a majority, they switch it back to what they want. I'm not there for that. And I've said it. And then when you are, as you stated, aggressive, I don't call it aggressive. I call it being passionate. When you are overly passionate and you happen to be of my skin tone, then that's when they say that you're aggressive and you're overly aggressive and you can't do this. And I'm not there for that. You put me there for a reason. I did what you want me to do, and they fell short. There's nothing I can do about that. But you did what you felt was right. You replaced me with Steve, and okay, that's fine. And then when I went back, they still doing the same thing.
But the fact of the matter is that you never came to me and said there's a problem here, because I would have showed up at the meeting with you. You had options. And that you had options. You and I were always friends. I consider us still friends now, whether you vote for me or not. And I do appreciate the time tonight that you're giving me. But when you have options, your town council person is elected to take care of you, whether that's somebody you put on the board or somebody that's on the street. Everyone deserves the same aggressive care that they should get. Doesn't matter the color of their skin, their position in life, or the position on a board. I have shown up many times to building department inspections because I heard there was issues. Okay, as soon as I show up, things change pretty quickly. And you didn't reach out to me, and I wish you had, because you remember I did call you the first year. I go, Dana, what's going on? And you said, no, I had some problems. I'm going to be back better. I'll be back better next year. And I said, okay, fine. So I gave you another year. And that was the end of it. But that community is all about everybody doing their fair share and doing things there. Understand this, whether you vote for me or not, you have my phone number. You can always pick up the phone and call me. Every one of you ladies has my phone number. And I pick up the phone no matter who calls me, because I want to make sure I'm doing my job. And that's for you, for Lisa, Jennifer, your families, anybody in the community. And you and I were texting back in January about Reverend artists, because I was concerned with them. Okay.
Yes,
so these are all important things. And the fact of the matter is, I want to make sure that our whole community benefits, because we're one.
So Dana was not public with what was going on at the time, but her dad was really sick and he had passed away after. I think that had a lot to do with it. Yeah, that was a lot to do with it. But
you did. Let me just clear this. I will give you the proper props, as we call it, for calling in Reverend Artist. And you did call, I believe it was 2 or 3 times. And you most certainly did not suggest that his wife go to social services like someone else did. So I truly appreciate that. And you did call to say If he needs anything, if his wife needs anything, let me know. So I will say that he definitely did that. So we were, you know, I'm sure they're grateful. I was definitely grateful, and I did relay the message. So that was.
I don't know if you know this, but Gloria Artist was my Woman of the Year about 2 or 3 years ago. And tomorrow we're celebrating, every year we celebrate women of distinction. And tomorrow Officer Delgado is my Woman of Distinction. So Gloria's had that a couple of years ago, and she's an awesome woman. And if they ever need any help, I'm here to help. Whether they personally or through the town, I will make sure they're helped. They're great people.
And I do love what you were saying before I rudely interrupted you, which is a horrible habit I have. That I know, I'm this excited personality. We did extend that you were saying that you're here for the community and you want to be heard and appreciate us providing that platform. I know that it was a little intensive an interview, but we extended this interview to every single candidate running for town board. We had never done anything like this before. This is the first year that we decided to do this. And the only candidates we had, Kathleen Cleary her campaign did respond, but they didn't like the format, so they never got back to us. But Ms. Circles just completely blew us off completely. So there was no response or explanation. So we really appreciate you giving us your time as well.
And I have to tell you, it wasn't intense for me at all, because if you always do the right thing, even if it's in your own mind, and you get things going and you help the community, that's what we're all here for. That to me is an easy conversation. And I thank you for not screaming at me, Dana, and, you know, yelling at me, and, you know, everybody's telling me, oh, Dana's going to, you know, yell at you. I knew you better than that. You're not that type of.
How many debates have you gone to? I've never raised my voice.
I've known you for years, and I have to say you're an awesome person. I do thank you for the time. So ladies, I think that's the end, correct?
Yeah, I think we're good. We're a little bit over.
Find you.
Oh my goodness, look. But I know, it's so funny.
You're always a great guy to talk to, Gene. You're always easy to talk to, and I appreciate you.
And I'm here for all of you and anybody that needs it. So, and that's what our job is. So whether it's a building issue or a sewage issue or a neighbor issue, it's something that you should pick up the phone right away and call. So I thank you all. I want you to have a great night, and God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will see everyone next week on Be the Media. We thank Gene for all his time. Do you ladies have any final thoughts? It looks like he signed off and did just fine.
No.
I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll see everyone on Wednesday. It's a double header this week. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.